What's up, guys? Back again. We got another episode of Consumed. And on this episode, we're going to be tackling the Goldman Sachs investment on a recent supplement startup called Care of. If you guys are not aware of Care of, they were launched in 2016 and they're an e-commerce subscription model built on a platform of personalized nutrition. I'll cover a lot of those strategies later on in this video, but initially why I wanted to cover this topic on Consumed was most of the articles were comparing Care of's market cap, which was about $156 million after this investment from Goldman, to the market caps of a GNC and a Vitamin Shoppe. These articles were written 2 weeks ago, so these numbers were a little bit different. But today, the market cap of GNC is about $250 million, and then Vitamin Shoppe's is about $300 million. And that's primarily because of a run-up in the recent stock price after the quarterly earnings. These articles mostly kind of compared the market caps in a way that made you believe that just because a company like Care of is built on e-commerce, it should have such a rich valuation comparable to established retail channels and partners like a GNC and a Vitamin Shoppe. I don't know Care of's revenue, but as you guys know, both GNC and Vitamin Shoppe are billion-dollar retail companies. So there's obviously a real business that GNC and Vitamin Shoppe has built. And though I think most of you that have followed me both with articles and videos, you guys know I'm a true believer in e-commerce, everything digital. I'm a digital first consultant. So I obviously believe there's a lot more value long-term in e-commerce, but for these articles to kind of just only point that out and why, a company like Care of is getting such a rich valuation, I believe was just a little bit weak. And I wanted to make sure that my followers and people that are really interested in this kind of stuff could really understand what was going on with Care of and just kind of trends in the market. So one thing that I won't cover a lot about is that deal making in general sometimes has influence on each other. And if you guys have followed anything in like an ancillary market like over-the-counter prescriptions or just prescriptions in general, you guys noticed that PillPack was acquired by Amazon, and Amazon also has kind of like a partnership going with a lot of their health-oriented aspirations. So I believe there was some influence that happened with this deal that created a valuation a little bit higher than what I believe it probably should be, but I'm not going to cover kind of the nuances of mergers and acquisitions and how things can have influence on each other. I want to primarily focus on just general business. So most of these deals are happening because the dietary supplement kind of market in the US is somewhere around like $25 billion. I know that number can sway a lot between some of the reports. I'm taking my number from McKinsey & Company, which I tend to put a lot of trust in just because I know the quality of consultants that they have at that company. But anybody that knows kind of the dietary supplement market, you understand how fragmented the market is and how there's a ton of different players in there. So there's a lot of room for kind of new startups and people that have different value propositions to gain market share if they can like effectively communicate that to the market. And what Care of and a lot of these personalized nutrition startups are kind of banking on is that there's kind of a term called like perfect competition in a market, and they believe as the dietary supplement market becomes extremely fragmented and e-commerce kind of takes over, there's going to be a continual kind of race to the bottom in terms of margins, and they believe that having a value proposition based around kind of personalization, they believe that will ultimately prove to be a winning strategy. So let's break down like a little bit about like Care of and other personalized nutrition's like kind of winning strategies. And what I want to make sure everybody understands is I'm not saying that Care of is going to be the winning company in this area, and I don't even know if one company is going to be the winner in this area, but I'll kind of use them as the platform to discuss this topic a little bit more. So one of the first kind of propositions and one that the articles talked extensively about was e-commerce. And most of my followers understand kind of what's going on with e-commerce and the shift in retailing, but these kind of personalized nutrition startups are kind of banking on e-commerce, and not only e-commerce, but a subscription model within e-commerce. But just on the basis of like e-commerce in general, why dietary supplements work so well, especially like caps, powders, pills, is generally they're easy to ship, and they're also like not returnable. So in terms of like other categories of CPG, it works really well with e-commerce, and that's why it's been an early adopter of e-commerce over the last 15 years. And if you guys also follow a lot with kind of the consumer packaged goods industry, most of the things that are kind of more fast moving are shifting to a subscription model just because it's an ease of consumption, convenience for the people that are buying it. I think subscription models are still like in the early stages of what it's going to become. And why I say like subscription models are early on in kind of the adoption is because it's kind of on like a time basis. Every 30 days you get a new package of razors or you know, something like that. But a lot of times those things don't work because there's a lot of variables that happen within a month-to-month basis. And until there's kind of sensors and things on there that create an autonomous ordering process, I don't think subscription models are going to be as popular as they can be in the future. But what most of these like personalized nutrition startups are doing is focusing almost exclusively on the subscription model. And why the subscription model works really well with kind of dietary supplements or anything that's like kind of fast moving consumer goods is that a lot of times, especially with kind of like vitamins, are kind of a daily use thing. And a lot of times it's a mindless purchase. You understand that you need vitamin D or need more magnesium or anything like that. And generally those things are continuously purchased like month and month again. And a subscription model kind of takes away a lot of the decision making and kind of just instantaneously provides it in a way that becomes efficient for the consumer. I mean, that's all in good, and I don't think that has anything to do with why a personalized nutrition or a care of is going to win in the market, because anybody that has a plugin for Shopify or can even sell on Amazon can be a part of subscription models, and that really doesn't create any differentiation that's going on in the market. What a lot of these companies are banking on is the diagnostic aspect of the personalized nutrition. Care of has self-reported they've seen 1.5 million people take their quiz that helps people understand what vitamins and minerals and different supplements they should be taking on a day-to-day or a monthly basis. And why that's so important, and I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that in the next point, is mostly around kind of like customer data. If you guys kind of understand what's going on in the world, I guess he who owns the data has the power in this kind of new market. So it's increasingly important that companies both acquire and mine data in a way that can be useful to creating solutions that help the consumer and create more revenue. So the diagnostics kind of point in general, right now it's kind of like a mismatch of different things. There's a lot of different companies that have different focuses, and this also has to do with if it's a dietary supplement, kind of personalized nutrition side, or kind of a food side of personalized nutrition. Both of those have kind of some different levels of diagnostics. Care talks a lot about their self-diagnostic test and then also kind of tying into Apple Health. But I've seen some personalized nutrition platforms both work on DNA testing and then also kind of blood testing to understand what are your needs from a more extensive standpoint. And just like subscription models are kind of early on in the adoption period, self-diagnostics and just diagnostics in general are extremely bleeding edge in terms of what these personalized nutrition startups are banking on. So they're still trying to figure out kind of a proof of concept of a lot of these different things. And the issue is, though most consumers will easily kind of take some different quizzes or things like that, when it comes down to having to prick their finger or going into getting blood work or getting a DNA test or getting a lot of tests done on a kind of a semi-regular basis to understand where their progress is at, that kind of is where a lot of the breakdown happens to the proposition of like true personalized nutrition. I believe this is going to be something that in the future is extremely normal for most people to do. As more and more data points can be collected, and not only collected, put in a usable manner, I believe just our healthcare in general is going to become extremely technical in a lot of these senses, and our healthcare costs to not skyrocket. A lot of these things have to be taken in-house and be self-diagnostic. So though it sounds extremely crazy right now, I think in the future it's going to become extremely normal for the younger generations. Kind of the last point around winning strategies with personalized nutrition startups is around the idea of like kind of customer data. And after you've done the self-diagnostics, you've purchased the products and you're constantly using them, I think most of us at that point are trying to understand, is this working or is this not working? And with these diagnostic tests, you have kind of a feedback loop that you can check things every 3-6 months or however long the period of time is that's useful. And this progression kind of feedback not only helps you understand like what's working, what's not working, it also kind of creates like a gamification to this whole process because you obviously want to get better results. And then further, like results obviously create legitimacy, and if anybody follows like dietary supplements, one of the biggest knocks on them is always around like legitimacy of the products and are they working. So this kind of helps close that whole loop. And then I know I've talked about just the differences of the supplement personalized nutrition and then like the food personalized nutrition. But a lot of those things could be tied in together, and a lot of these companies could either be consolidated together. They could somehow share data to understand each other. A lot of this dietary information is still kind of fragmented or disseminated in a way that a lot of consumers just do not understand it. There's a lot of conflicting information. There's not a lot of your general physicians and things that are giving you proper tests to understand what you need to consume to prevent certain diseases or anything. But I don't want to get too far into that because, as you guys know, I'm a business guy. I'm not a science guy by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't want to get too far down the weeds there. I'm sure there's a lot of great information out there on these different topics. But I want to finish up this video just on my thoughts in general on personalized nutrition and why I believe the valuation is not all that far-fetched. So get the easy one out the way. Obviously, e-commerce, I think that one, subscription model, I talked about it in the video. Those are winning strategies. Those are areas that are going to be more and more important in the industry of dietary supplement. Now, moving into like the diagnostics part of things, being that a lot of the true personalization of this whole process is based around kind of more the diagnostics and understanding what's going on in the body, this is still kind of very hard for me to kind of wrap my head around, just because I know that a lot of people are not going to go to the level that they need to get this. And there's going to be a lot of first adopters and people that definitely make a real good case for proof of concept. But when you move into just like mass consumers, this concept is extremely far off from what they believe is already the healthy way to go. And we're talking about people that are buying McDonald's and things like that. So when you're moving from like McDonald's to this, the leap is so far, and it's tough for people to understand all the steps to get there. Now, there's going to be a lot of people, maybe like myself or people that are watching this video, that are going to say, hey, this makes a lot of sense to me. I understand why we need to do all this diagnostics, and I want to be more healthy. I'm already working out 5 to 6 times a week. I'm already eating healthy. I'm already taking supplements. This is kind of the next step in the process that is quote unquote kind of like healthier for me. But the middle America person that's eating a Big Mac every day, like, this is so far off from even their understanding that it's going to take quite a few years for them to even catch wind of this, let alone adopting it into their kind of like day-to-day processes. But mostly with a lot of these investments this is a long-term view. These are going to be common to younger generations, and this is going to be kind of a way of life. And kind of just with the last thing that I brought up about customer data, I mean, this has already been a proven out factor that customer data is, trillion-dollar companies are getting built off of just customer data and how they use customer data. So this is something that needs to be prioritized by a lot of just general dietary supplement companies. And if they aren't taking winning kind of strategies from tech, like a startup is like Care of, they're going to end up in this kind of race to the bottom. And it's just not going to be a good ending for a lot of the kind of legacy traditional supplement brands that are really thinking farther than 1 to 3 years out. But I'd like to close out this video. Try not to get too granular with the subjects. Try to keep this on a general basis so we can have some discussion. If you guys want to comment below, if there's anything that you guys want to talk a little bit more about, that'd be great. If you guys gotten this far in the video, make sure you guys do give this thing a thumbs up. If you guys have not done it so far, make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button. Helps me out a ton. And I'll see you guys on the next one.